I don't know how this happened, but then I invited you to go to my class, right?
Yeah, a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I came to your class, and I think I was editing another movie, editing Eighth and Body Saints, because I was living in New York during that period, and
Oh,
that's, I think, the timeline, if I remember correctly.
we ran into each other at Maryland or Baltimore.
We would have definitely run into each other there, because I had a good 6 year run of going to Baltimore, the Maryland Film Festival, every year. Like, it was a regular part of my movie going life, was to make sure I hit up that festival every year.
And I think we were like taking a van back from a bar or something. And I think we talked about Will Oldham, because I think I'd made Tripping with Caveh.
Mm-hmm.
And you were thinking of casting him or something, and you asked me about him.
It was either, depending on what year that was, it was either I'd already cast him in Pioneer, or I had just reached out to him about, if it was 2010, which it very well could have been, because I would have been at Maryland that year, I think. Then I'd probably just reached out to him for the first time about maybe acting in that film, and was probably soliciting advice on what it's like to direct him.
Yeah, that makes sense. My memory was just like maybe you asked me what I thought of him, or thought he was, and I think I said something, or maybe you asked me how to get a hold of him. I don't know, but I remember there was some like Will Oldham.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
I think you made the Pioneer film.
Yep.
And that's what you showed in my class.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And if you don't mind, maybe I'll just show the beginning of it.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, I'm going to show the beginning of it. Here it comes. Pioneer. Open.
Hey, come here. Oh. What's wrong?
Bad nightmare.
You just having a nightmare?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, that's so terrible. What can I do for you? Can I get you a glass of water?
No.
You sure?
No.
You gonna try to go back to sleep?
No.
What do you want?
Read me a story.
You want me to read you a story?
Yes.
Okay. What should I read? Want me to grab a book?
No.
What do you want?
Read me a story about Mommy.
That's a long, long story. You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, where do you want me to start?
At the very beginning with the ship.
With the ships. Okay. Well, I came here to America on a ship. And it was a very long, long trip. And I sat there for months, and I ate my hardtack.
Hardtack.
Okay.
I think that's probably the first time I've watched that since your class. And I probably said this then, and I maintain it, 5, 6 movies later, that I don't think I'll ever make anything as good as that.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's my favorite thing that I'll ever make.
Wow. I think I like Ain't Them Body Saints even more.
Great, that's awesome. I'm glad other people like it more, but for me, that one's personal in a very specific way, and I just like the degree to which it matters to me and the degree to which I think it's successful are like evenly matched, and it's rare for a movie that one makes oneself to do that. I find, and for me, I'm like, I'm one of those directors who has trouble watching their own work and seeing past the self-imposed shortcomings that I may, see in it. But with that one, even though I don't watch it that often, I haven't watched it in years, but I don't see any of those. I just see it working the way I wanted it to and meaning what I wanted it to.
I remember from that class, like I was showing a clip from Casablanca,
Yes.
and I was sort of talking about it like shot by shot. And I remember you being very intrigued and curious and taken with it. And I was touched by your whatever passion for the shot by shot analysis that we were doing.
It made me want to take your class. and come sit in on more of them. But it also, I remember specifically just being so, I hadn't seen Casablanca since, high school or whatever when I had first seen it. And you were, my memory is that you were showing the ending and going
Yeah.
through shot by shot the ending, and just being so taken with Curtiz's blocking and how, and that style of finding multiple shots within one shot, multiple compositions, and just thinking like, oh, I got to figure out how to do that. I haven't figured it out yet, but I definitely like filed that away as an aspiration.
And I don't think I've seen you since then, right? That was the last time.
In person, yeah. I feel like, yeah, well, we've just emailed since then.
Yeah. But you made all the features after that, right?
I kept pretty busy. I think between Ain't Body Saints and Pete's Dragon, there was like a 3-year little gap there. I guess because I was making Pete's Dragon, but it was definitely, I've tried to, maintain like at least the aspiration towards a movie a year, because I just am really impatient and don't like to let things simmer as long as they probably should be simmering. But I think I'm editing now. I think I'm editing my 7th movie or 7th feature film, which is, I feel very lucky that I've been able to make that many in a relatively short period of time.
Before Pioneer, right?
I did a feature called Saint Nick
Right.
beforehand. That was like a $12,000 movie, and then Ain't Body Saints and so on and so forth.
And as somebody who's never really worked at the scale you have, or in the system like you have, I'm always curious to know what it's like, or how has it been?
It's weird because I've always found, like, the movie I just finished is another Disney movie, and it's the biggest thing I've ever done. And I'm in
terms of budget, or in terms
budget.
of
It was the shoot was over 6 months long.
Oh, wow.
And it just was, and I was really scared going into it because normally when I'm making a movie, as much as I love making movies, it's just like an ever growing ball of stress in my stomach from day one. It just gets bigger and bigger, and by the end of it, I can like I'm just like barely keep my wits about me. And I always feel that every day on a shoot is like a series of disappointments, like whether you've run out of time, or that the weather wasn't quite right, or that you just didn't quite get what you were setting out to get that morning. And that's not a healthy way to work, but it's just, I've learned that that's just kind of like my mindset while I'm shooting. And then I learned to love the footage while cutting. On this movie, which I've just started cutting, every day was great. Like, it was just a joy. And I tried to figure out what was different about this one. And it was, I think, simply that we just had a lot of time. I think that's all it was. Like, the money is kind of like attached to that on the budget because you can afford to shoot for 6 months. But for the first time ever, like, I was able to like quantify what a larger budget can do. And that is just give you enough time to feel like you are doing more than what you thought you could do, as opposed to less. And I'm curious how it works in the edit. Like, will I find that in the edit that like I then like am less satisfied, or will it flip back on me at some point in the editing process? I don't know, but I'm still feeling the afterglow of that shoot, which was just a once in a lifetime, well, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but from thus far, it was like the first time I ever just been like full of joy every day while shooting a film. And so I think when it comes to the scale, like, this is a new experience for me, but that's the first time where like, usually my answers to that, like, because like Saint Nick was 12,000, Ain't Body Saints was like a little bit over 3, Old Man the Gun was 11 million. And so you've got those scales, and I'm always like, and Pete's Dragon was like 70 million, which was huge. And all of those felt exactly the same. Like, I went from Pete's Dragon to Ghost Story, and I always was like, this sounds like a clever line, but it's true. Like, those movies did not feel different in terms of the execution of them. But this one did. And I think it really is just because it went on for so long, and we were able to go on for so long. And it wasn't like we went over a schedule. That was our schedule. Our schedule was what it was, but it afforded us and afforded me the ability to like every day go home thinking like, yeah, we did what we set out to do. And the only other time I've had that feeling was with Pioneer, which was a 2-day shoot. but where that movie was simple enough to be like, to afford me the ability to like execute it exactly as I intended to.
An hour or so ago, I was talking to Richard Linklater, and we were talking about like what qualities make a good director, or what qualities does a director need to have to be successful? Successful more even than good in a way. And I was talking about a certain affability or a certain like you know um, people thing,
Yeah.
like you've gotten so successful like since I've known you, and I'm just curious, like what do you think the qualities are that like make that possible, or that that make that or
I
require
think I think there's like there's the part of it that is like the hubris and the ego of believing that you have like something that compels you to spearhead an endeavor such as a film.
Mhm.
Because if I didn't have that, I think I would be perfectly happy working as an editor, which is what I've done before.
Oh, didn't you
But
edit Upstream Color?
yeah, I worked on Upstream Color. I did Sundown Shine. I did Dustin DeFay's Bad Fever.
Oh,
Um,
I showed a
and
clip from that today.
it's I love that movie. It's
Yeah,
so
me
good.
too.
Um, and and then numerous films that no one has seen, and lots of shorts and lots of like infomercials to pay the bills. Um, and but so you have to have that like drive to put yourself ahead of that moving train in a way, or to be the conductor, or both. Um, and you're sort of like Buster Keaton holding the crossbar or beam at the front of the cowcatcher in the general. Like that's kind of like the place you find yourself in as a director. Um, and and then yes, yeah, I think you have to be. I, I don't know. Like I'm not a extrovert. I'm an introvert. I am not comfort. I get all of my strength from solitude, and I like being alone. And I'm not good at extemporaneous thought, like expressing extemporaneous thought. I'm not a good improviser. Um, in terms of like communication, I'm a bad communicator, but I am able to, I guess, rise to the occasion when I'm on a set. When I'm directing, I can rise to that occasion and guide that team in a certain direction. And I'm alert to the ebb and flow of the production and the way that people need to be supported to do their best work. I'm a big believer in, finding great collaborators and letting them shine, and just, nudging everybody 10% to the left, 10% to the right to get it towards where I want it to be. But doing so requires, a skill at reading the room every single day, and engendering an environment and that allows people to do their best. And that requires like some version of being a people person. And I don't know how to explain it beyond that, because I'm not good at either explaining it or understanding how I do it, because that's so outside of what I would expect my comfort zone to be. But there's also the element of kindness, which I think is one thing that has helped, in that I just try to be nice to everybody. And even when it's like I need something done, or I just don't, I don't lose my temper. Um, I don't I never want anyone to leave a set at the end of the day feeling poorly, or like feeling like that they've been thrown under the bus, or feeling like they've been taken advantage of, or feeling that they're not being given the chance to express themselves fully. And so I try to shoulder a lot of the weight on a set, in terms of like when things are going poorly. I always put that on myself. Or if there's, scheduling issues or any sort of issue, I try to carry that myself and let other people um, have the space to, only worry about doing good work. And I think that somehow helps. I don't know. I'm riffing here, but that's something I've noticed, because like the amount of stress that people are always like looking at me on set and like, man, you are so calm and just chilled and laid back. And like, if you could just see like how much my guts are churning. And I don't think I'm alone. I think most filmmakers probably have a version of that, but I'm always looking for ways to make everyone else's jobs easier by doing more myself. And I don't think that's essentially like the reason. That doesn't make me a good director, but I think it does make the experience happier for everybody. And I'm happy because I get to work with all these people and I ultimately get to make the movie I want to make, even if I'm like a, you know, a rack of, you know, a ball of nerves through the entire shoot.
Why'd you say you're a bad communicator though?
I have, if you put me on the spot, if we're like a set is for me a usually pretty intense experience because we're trying to do a lot every day, and I always just wind up making movies that are way more ambitious than we have the time or money for. And in those circumstances, I am not as collected as I may be right now. Like even right now, like I'm talking in fits and starts and not completely elucidating my ideas as well as I'd like to. But if you put me in an intense environment, I all of a sudden will just start speaking gibberish because I'll be put on the spot and I won't be able to find the words I want. And it was really funny on Green Knight. I lost my voice entirely at one point, and I got really sick while shooting it and had to communicate with notepads. And part of that was terrible because I really like, in spite of my own deficiencies or self-prescribed deficiencies, I really like communicating with people. I like talking to actors. I like being in the midst of everything. But I did find that writing things down, I was much more, I can usually, you know, figure out exactly what I want to say very succinctly in the written form. And so being able to just write a note and give it to an actor, I was like probably far more efficient than I've ever been before, but definitely sapped the joy out of it for me.
You seem to have like a real humility, or you know, like a lack of pretension that I bet is like a really helpful trait.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's an element of ego that's required to be a director, and I own that. But I do think that there's no need to be pretentious about it because everyone there, I'm a big believer also in that, like, I try to make the best movies I can. I'm always going to do my best to like make the movies good and worthwhile. But for those of us who are making it, including myself, the experience is what we're going to have to hang on to. And I want that experience to be one of great camaraderie and joy. And in spite of me talking about all the, you know, discomfort I may personally feel, filmmaking is a joyful thing to me. I embrace that discomfort, and I want everyone else to hopefully not have any of that discomfort, but just have the joy. And I think that requires like a lack of pretension and an understanding that we are all here to do good work and have fun doing it. And that at the, you know, we're often at the end of the day, like think we're just making a movie, but how lucky is it that we're just making a movie? What a great way to just like, to be able to say we're going to work doing this every day. And I'm not a, you know, a journeyman director like Howard Hawks or John Ford or any of the great studio directors of the golden era. I don't imagine myself in that, of that ilk, but I do try to like think about the process of making the film in the same way that they probably did. And that just kind of like takes it down a notch from art to something far more practical. And I think art can emerge from that, absolutely. But we're not trying to necessarily think about that when we're figuring out where to put the camera.
Cool, thank you, David. I'm told that we need to stop, but it's really great to see you. It's been so long, and thank you so much for doing this.
I look forward to tuning into more of these tomorrow, especially with, I want to see you chat with Will when you're very sleep deprived.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Caveh.
Take care, David. Bye.